bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away, Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, me and the bold. Ding dong ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they come, raising the sound, all here and there, telling the tale. While people sing songs of good cheer, Christmas is here. Merry, merry, merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. On they said, on without him, their joyful tone to every home. All the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away, Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, me and the bold. Ding dong ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they come, raising the sound, all in their day, all their tunes, gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, merry, merry Christmas. Merry, merry, merry Christmas. On they said, on without him, their joyful tone to every home. All the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away, Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, me and the bold. Ding dong ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they come, raising the sound, all in their day, all their tunes, gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, merry, merry Christmas. Merry, merry, merry Christmas. All they said, all without him, their joyful tone to every home. All they said, all without him, their joyful tone to every home.
What do we look for in Christmas horror? If you're anything like me, you kind of want a combination of two things. You want it to be ultimately a horror movie, a good one at that, but you also want it to embody Christmas, to not just have it tacked on, but it to feel like that time of the year, for it to feel like the holidays, be it visually, be it with music, be it with the themes. Combination of the two, even if it's tongue-in-cheek or taking it seriously, can result in a great Christmas horror. And there have been a number of very good Christmas horrors. Some of the more famous ones, like Silent Night, Deadly Night, for example, probably the most famous, or Black Christmas. These are Christmas-themed horrors that stand up as horror movies alone, without the Christmas tag. You can watch them all year round if you so chose. But there are many others out there. There are many other good Christmas horrors that perhaps haven't got the interest, because when you hear Christmas horror, you tend to kind of think, oh, that's not going to be good, because there are a lot of bad ones. It's often cheap and easy to make, and a lot of indie film directors and makers out there have tried their hand in it, particularly in the horror short department. But finding good quality, full-length Christmas horrors can be a task. So we wanted to highlight 10 that perhaps aren't as well known, perhaps aren't getting the same attention as the likes of Silent Night, Deadly Night. And, you know, each of them, they're not all classics, not all like, oh, you must see these movies. But these are 10 Christmas horrors that this year and the years that follow, we can all enjoy. So we start off with Santa's Sleigh, released in 2005. Imagine if Santa wasn't the happy jolly figure we all know and love. Imagine that he is actually the son of Satan, who lost a bet with an angel and has had to be nice for the last 1,000 years. Imagine that time has finally come to an end and Santa is now back to his old evil ways. Oh, and imagine that this Santa is played by the ex-wrestler Bill Goldberg.
Grandpa, I want the truth about Christmas.
If it's the truth you want, then it's the scary truth you're gonna have.
According to the Book of Claus, Santa, Satan's only son, lost a bet and was forced to spread Christmas cheer. But now, all bets are off.
Santa?
Yes, there is a Santa Claus. Ho, ho, hoes.
I know, it sounds awesome, and it kind of is, but let me kind of explain a bit more. It's Christmas Eve. The movie opens on Christmas Eve in the Masons' household, and the family are sitting down for dinner, even though they are dysfunctional as hell. It's quite an amusing scene, especially when you realise that all these family members are played by famous Jewish actors such as James Caan. And their happy meal is interrupted by Santa Claus, who comes down the chimney and instantly is filled to the brim with one-liners and a lot of violence. Santa attacks and kills the family before setting off for the town of Hell on a sleigh led by his hell deer, which is actually a massive red-eyed buffalo. Meanwhile, in the town, teenager Nicholas is living with his grandfather who hates Christmas. The town thinks the man is crazy, and even Nicholas is having doubts about him. After a fight with his girlfriend Mary, Nicholas decides to talk to his grandfather about the holiday and is taken to a secret bunker he has built to hide from Santa. He gives Nicholas an ancient book that reveals the truth about the Jolly One. This Santa Claus is effectively the Antichrist. The bet has ended and Santa is free to slaughter on Christmas again. So Santa's come to the town of Hell looking for something, and nothing will stand in his way. He sets about killing the townspeople in various Christmas-themed ways. Yes, lots of that. All the while spouting one-liners that are incredibly cheesy. And it's up to Nicholas, only Nicholas, his grandfather Mary, who can stand in his way from destroying Christmas. So let's talk about the main attraction here, Bill Goldberg, who is just wonderful in an absolute cheese fest of a role. Being an ex-wrestler, his physique makes him incredibly intimidating. He is huge in this, and camera angles really add to that size. The dialogue he gets to spout is just, it's amazingly bad. And we're reaching so bad it's good territory here. Almost every line he speaks is in some reference to Christmas, but with like a nastier edge. You gotta love it. And unfortunately, because of that, the rest of the cast pale in comparison, as their screen time is eaten up by Santa, their main roles being to run, hide, and throw the odd Christmas joke in here and there. The body count is high throughout, but surprisingly it's quite light on gore. You get blood here and there, but it's more comic book style than gritty. And the film is quite short too, and you can see the ending coming a mile away, but it doesn't stop it being a fun ride. Santa's Sleigh is a fun, silly ride of a Christmas horror that plays out with its tongue firmly planted in its cheek. Enjoy the hammy performances and cheesy lines. After all, it is Christmas.
Jules, I think Santa has left you some surprises.
I can't wait to see the shit we got. Can we open our motherfucking presents now?
Of course.
Go ahead, kids. Let's see what Santa got you.
Fuck.
We have a more modern one for you now, coming out this very year. Secret Santa has a well-told story that cleverly drops in hints throughout for what will take place, with some great gore and some downright hilarious moments. Unfortunately, it does result in a bit of a frustrating watch because of the poor filming and lighting style. For reasons that make little sense, except maybe budgets possibly, it's filmed with handhelds, resulting in a hell of a lot of shaky camera and even more cuts. One scene where a character has a short speech that lasts about 15 seconds has over 7 cuts alone. It's quite infuriating, which is a shame because it's actually not a bad film overall.
Rainy day girl. Hi, Mom.
Mom, I thought this was your sister.
Friends and family. Where do you think you're going without giving your bro some sugar?
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Dinner will be served presently.
Why don't we play Secret Santa?
And our first contestant is...
Anybody else feel like it's hot in here?
I have had just about enough of this.
Enough of what?
Get out of my house.
It's not going anywhere. It's my house, too.
Hey!
Shut your mouth about my sisters, you pig! With...
Go! Fine!
Directed by Adam Marcus and co-written by Marcus and Deborah Sullivan, it tells the story of a seriously dysfunctional family, doesn't it always, getting together on Christmas Eve. This family are a group of toxic individuals with most seeming to despise each other, resulting in constant bickering and insults thrown around. We have recovering alcoholic April, who is brought alongside her brother Ty to meet the family. She is seen as the good girl of the family, especially from her sister Penny's point of view. Both girls do great in their roles, with plenty of layers to the characters, and Ryan Leah Seaton, who plays Penny, being the standout. On the boys' side of things, we have Drew Lynch's likeable Carl and Nathan Hendricks' over-the-top portrayal of the sex-crazed Jackson. The latter also brought someone to the party, his current squeeze Jacqueline, who ticks the nudity box if that's what you're after. We have a few more characters, but all of them are overseen by the cruel matriarch of the family, Sherry. She's a horrible woman, and her disappointment in her children can't be hidden. Seriously, however bad you think your family is, they're angels compared to this lot. They're all really entertaining, and most have great chemistry, especially when the truth starts to come out. Honesty is the name of the game at this family dinner, but not because everyone wants to clear the air. Instead, they've all been given the gift of spiked punch by someone unknown. Spiked with a drug that makes them all really honest, but with the added side effect of murder. As tensions heat up, things get out of hand really fast. This Christmas season will erupt in a fountain of blood. Seriously, Secret Santa doles out the violence and gore as if it is going out of business. It is visceral and extremely stomach-turning at times. In fact, Secret Santa is not a family film at all. Thanks to some of the crudest dialogue, nastier visuals and blackest humour going. It has no issue with bad taste and is all the better for it. If we had had just a little more effort put in with the camera work and the harsh lighting inside the house, would have had one of the finest Christmas horrors in a while. Instead, all we can really say is that if you like a Christmas horror to be brutal, funny in a twisted way and well acted, then Secret Santa will hit the mark. The best kind of Christmas horrors are the ones that embrace the absurd, the ones that dial it up to 11 and make it feel like an authentic holiday film. Think the visuals of Home Alone, but where Kevin tortures and kills the burglars before serving their corpses as food for his parents. Welcome to Mercy Christmas, a comedy horror that takes all of the above and has a blast with it. There's a short list of Christmas horror movies we would recommend, as few really impress, but Mercy Christmas can proudly join that list. It's a downright insane movie, but you'll be giggling with glee all the way through it.
Is that eggnog? I love eggnog. It would tear me up to know that a guy like you didn't make it to a Christmas dinner table. I'm home! Daddy!
Oh, I have missed you so much.
Boys, it's stocking time.
It is so nice to have you three kids together again under this roof. Christmas is my favorite time of year.
Bon appetit.
Ooh, I love ribs.
How do you like my family brisket?
It's not supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be about warmth and tradition, if it's special.
Stephen Hubble plays Michael Brisket, our star, who is a kindly loser toiling away in his office cubicle. He is lonely and dreams of spending Christmas with a real family and a woman who cares for him. That's not going to happen if his boss, Andy, played by Cole Gleason, has anything to do with it. He takes advantage by making Michael do his work over the holiday period. Michael, being such a timid and affable fellow, can't say no, but when he meets Cindy, played by Casey O'Keefe, things start to look up. She agrees to go to his party, and when nobody else turns up, the pair actually have a nice time. It's a really sweet scene. On her way out, she decides to invite him to spend Christmas Day with her family, and of course, Michael agrees. At Cindy's home the next day, Michael meets her seemingly perfect family, and he couldn't be happier. That is until he gives a toast during dinner and his mind starts to get hazy. Just as he falls unconscious, he sees his boss walk in. It turns out that Andy is part of the Robillard family, and Michael has been chosen alongside two others to be part of a tradition. Our family tradition that involves cannibalism, goes back a very long way. It is as mental as it sounds, but plays out in such a way that it's impossible to not be fully invested in the absurdity of it all. Part comedy, part uber-violent horror, Mercy Christmas combines the two perfectly. All thanks to the bright visuals, the excellent camera work, the Christmas feel, and the excellent acting. Stephen Hubble's Michael may not be much of an original character, but he puts his heart and soul into this role. Michael is adorable and incredibly likeable, holding on to hope as long as he possibly can, even in the face of the evil that comes from Cole Gleason's Andy, a truly despicable character that you desperately want to see get his comeuppance. While those two are the standouts, everyone does a fantastic job, from Casey O'Keefe's desire to honour the memory of her family's dead mother, to Gwen Van Damme's granny, who is twisted and without remorse, to Whitney Nielsen's Catherine, who deals with a hostage situation a little differently. You'll remember every character and no one half-asses it here at all. If all of that appeals, then the film also adds some top-class gore to the mix to really turn this cake into a thing of beauty. Mercy Christmas has no issue with taking the dark subject matter and making sure your stomach might turn a bit while watching this. When his family say they enjoy a leg of a Christmas, it's not come from what you might think. Brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyable from beginning to end. Even when it ramps up to silliness for the finale, it's still an absolute blast. So if you watch one Christmas horror this year, make it Mercy Christmas. Only in rare occasions in Christmas horror do one of these films make such an impact that the word spreads and success comes with it. One such film is the 2010 Finnish fantasy horror Rare Exports A Christmas Tale. Written and directed by Jalmari Helander, the film is based on the 2003 short film Rare Exports Inc. and its 2005 sequel Rare Exports The Official Safety Instructions. Rare Exports sees a research team uncovering an ancient burial mound deep within Lapland, something that has been buried for centuries down there, something evil that time has forgotten and romanticized. See where this is going.
It's the most magical time of the year, when traditions are honored and the youngest among us still believe in the spirit of the season.
We found something else than just plain rocks and dirt.
This mountain is like a giant icebox.
For storing what?
Drill deeper. Prepare the dynamite. You have a grave to rob.
Two young boys spy on a research team, with one, Pieti, becoming convinced that Santa Claus is real, but far more terrifying than he has been made out to be by the media. As Christmas nears, Pieti becomes convinced that Santa is coming to punish him for being naughty. His relationship with his father is strained, made worse as the local reindeer all end up dead, and Pieti believes it is his fault. A group of villagers, angry at the loss of the reindeer, go to the drilling site to demand retribution. What they find, though, is a deserted site and a massive pit. What did the researchers dig up? Rare Exports A Christmas Tale is one of the best Christmas horrors to be released ever. The story is thrilling, interesting, exciting. Twists and turns along the way keep you constantly on your toes as the excellent cast keep you invested. It's a surprisingly smart take on Santa Claus and Christmas, one that doesn't come across as a parody, even though it has some well-placed humorous moments too. The gritty and brutal environment is all in a day's work for these characters, and they take everything in their stride. There isn't an unlikable one in the entire bunch. The movie nails its suspenseful tone and gives off the perfect vibe of a dark fantasy mixed with horror. The cinematography is exemplary, and the location's beautiful. If all of that wasn't enough, the film is lifted to even higher levels thanks to a fantastic score. Rare Exports A Christmas Tale feels authentically Christmas, avoiding a mean-spirited take that is often found in holiday-related horror. It's not scary or particularly violent, but it has enough tense moments to keep you on edge. This Christmas, this is probably the one to watch. You won't be disappointed by a glorious and fantastical horror that adds a few more shadows to Christmas time. Zombies and Christmas, not always something that goes well together. There have been a few seasonal zombie flicks, and considering the state of the zombie subgenre, it's hard to get excited when one does turn up. A Cadaver Christmas is about zombies, but in a surprising turn of events, it's actually a good movie. Well, once you get past like the awkward opening and not helped by the quality of the act, and there is some very questionable performances here.
It's Christmas Eve. Why are you...
I'm the janitor over at the university. That big rain just before Christmas break left all the buildings completely trashed. Damn kids. Too stupid to use the sidewalks. They can all go to hell for I care. People like that just make me sick.
What's with the blood?
So I just finished the science building. Something didn't seem quite right.
The movie opens with a blood-soaked janitor arriving at a bar with a story to tell. A bunch of dead bodies got up and started attacking the students of a college. No one believes him though, and facing arrest, he agrees to go back to the building and prove his innocence. Shot like a grindhouse movie, A Cadaver Christmas grabs your attention early on, then promptly loosens its grip as the opening segment drags on for ages. It's not as though the plot is difficult to follow, so why it takes so long to get from the bar to the college is head-scratching stuff. Once there though, things ramp up, and the real horror comes out to play, as well as some really smart black comedy. A Cadaver Christmas is a fun movie, one that embraces the silliness of the situation and ups the absurdity with clumsy characters. A lot of effort was put into making these zombies feel like a viable threat, something that doesn't really work anymore in modern horror. They're the slow shambling type in a classic style. They're deceptively sneaky and quick to grab hold. Like all zombies, the fear comes from the sheer number and their unrelenting nature. Action scenes, while brief, are fun, and the climactic battle is worth waiting for. Gloriously silly and gleefully gory, the zombie slaying to the tune of Silent Night will have you chuckling along. Look harder at A Cadaver Christmas, and its flaws are more recognisable. Its plot's paper thin, and the characters are often stupid beyond belief. And even some of the jokes can wear thin. Still, there is fun to be had, and it's not only a good Christmas zombie movie, but a good zombie movie overall. Good Tidings is a gritty and grim Christmas-related horror that begins with 3 men dressed in Santa outfits and masks killing a man as he gets into his car. There appears to be no reason as to why, making it clear earlier on that the trio are psychopaths. Meanwhile, a homeless man named Frank has rounded up a load of other homeless people and got them into a closed-down courthouse. He has a big heart and just wants to help others like him, but his behaviour is viewed with suspicion by some of the group. The first 30 minutes of Good Tidings tries to delve into some of the more important characters' backstories. We learn some of the reasons why these characters are on the street and discover that Frank is a war veteran. The attempt to make characters you'll care about is admirable, and most of the actors do well. Ultimately though, this is Frank's movie as the trio of Psycho Santas arrive in the courthouse and start terrorising those inside. The war veteran side of Frank comes out, a side to him that he never wanted to unearth again, but he has no choice if he is to save himself and the others.
We're cattle. We are being punished for dragging us out from the dead. They're gonna die with us. And then they're gonna slaughter us. One.
Good Tidings gets a lot right. The characters are decent, the actions are good, it's violent, gory, and the grimy, abandoned courtroom is a cool looking environment. The lead, Colin Murtaugh, does well. His quiet demeanour and subtle nuances make Frank a more likeable character. It's the 3 Psycho Santas that you'll remember though, even if they never actually take off their masks. Little touches they have, such as how they move their bodies and react to certain characters, makes it clear who's in charge. However, where the movie is found lacking is with its story. An idea that would have been better served as a short. It's dragged out to a pretty hefty level, with far too many scenes of the killer Santas laughing and teasing their victims. Done once, it's effective. Done twice, it's pushing it. But the amount of times it's done here, it's painful to watch. At least 30 minutes could have been trimmed off this film, and it still would have had time to build characters. Another flaw is how it doesn't really feel too much like a Christmas movie. Replace the Santa costumes and the occasional singing, humming of songs, and to be honest, this probably wouldn't be a Christmas horror at all. It's not the only culprit out there, but it definitely could have done better. Still, it's a solid horror with enough enjoyable characters and actors and violence to hold your attention. If it had been a 30-minute short, it would have probably been a much better film. All Through the House is a Christmas slasher horror directed by Todd Nunes, a silly tongue-in-cheek gorefest that stars Ashley Marie Nunes, Jessica Cameron, Jennifer Wenger and Melinda Curring. A throwback to the 80s horror with much improved visuals. All Through the House has a simple setup. A psycho dressed in Santa outfit is going house to house on a quiet suburban neighbourhood, slaughtering those inside. Santa's weapon of choice is a pair of garden shears, and a lot of people are busy having sex. Get used to seeing nudity and dongs being cut off.
Life was not the same when Jamie was taken from me. A pity. She could have been like you. You see, baby? They don't want to play with you. They ain't nothing but a bunch of naughty little children.
Rachel. Rachel, you gotta get out of that house.
Rachel, played by Ashley Mary Nunez, has returned home during her college break to see her grandmother and friends. She goes talking to her neighbour, Mrs. Garrett, who is lonely and something of a tragic figure. Her daughter was taken 15 years before and her husband died shortly afterwards. Rachel takes pity on Mrs. Garrett and agrees to stop by with her friends later. Once they do, they discover an uncomfortable setting inside the lonely old woman's house. Mrs. Garrett has been using mannequins to play out sinister scenes of family life, and all the presents under the tree are for her missing daughter. When quizzed about it, she confidently claims that her daughter is coming back tonight. Could the case of Mrs. Garrett's missing daughter have any relation to the killer Santa on the loose right now? As stories go, All Through the House does a good job of keeping things entertaining, and even though the story does get pretty silly in the final third, it's still a lot of fun. A good cast really help, with Ashley Mary Nunez's final girl Rachel, a character that isn't anything new, actually standing out. The best thing about All Through the House though is how it really embodies the Christmas look. The excellent Santa costume of the villain, the use of Christmas lights, and how gloriously it sprays the blood around. From the moment the movie starts, the gore flies and no two kills are alike. Thankfully, the movie has so much more going for it than just gore. Well paced and with a twist that, while not particularly well hidden, is still a lot of fun. Better Watch Out, also known as Safe Neighborhood, was directed by Chris Peckover. It stars Levi Miller, Olivia de Jong, and Ed Oxenbould. What starts off as a familiar and solid enough Christmas slasher turns into a fun and silly horror romp with gleeful amounts of gore.
Want to put her in the mood? Watch a horror movie.
Dude, she's like twice our age. I really don't think it's gonna happen.
She's here.
You are breathtaking.
Thank you. Now don't stay up and watch scary movies, okay? It'll give you nightmares again.
So what do you want to do?
Ricky, why can't you just leave me alone?
He's such a jerk.
Don't hang up on me.
What was that?
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
Get away from the window.
There's someone there.
Ashley! Are you hiding? I'll find you.
Don't worry, I'll protect you.
"17-year-old Ashley, played by Olivia de Jong, is a babysitting 12-year-old Luke, Levi Miller. She is every teenage babysitter ever, a walking cliche of boyfriends and ignorance towards the odd behaviour of Luke. Odd in the sense that he won't stop trying to hit on her. She initially plays it off as silly fun, but as the night goes on, it becomes more uncontrollable, made worse by the arrival of Garrett, Ed Oxenbould, Luke's friend. That becomes less of an issue though when strange things start to happen and a brick is found with the words "Leave and you die" written on it. Garrett goes outside to check and is seemingly shot and killed, forcing Ashley and Luke to hide. It's here that Ashley sees a masked person walking around the house with a shotgun. At this stage, it's hard to be too invested, because it plays off like a standard slasher home invasion horror. The best that can be said is the acting is quality and the movie looks really Christmassy. However, just when you think you know where the movie is headed, it takes a sharp left turn. Ashley recognises the mask and realises that it's Garrett underneath it. She confronts him, rips him off, revealing that both him and Luke were in cahoots. The plan being for them to scare Ashley and to rescue her, resulting in her rewarding him. She's furious, obviously, and makes sure Luke knows exactly what she thinks of him. Enraged, he hits her, knocking her down the stairs, and when she wakes up, she is bound and gagged in a chair. Luke now wants to play a game. Better Watch Out takes its time to get going, but when it does, it's a well thought out movie. One that has lifted to greatness thanks to excellent acting and many invented takes on classic Christmas stuff. One that really stands out as the recreation of the swinging paint pot scene from Home Alone, an utterly horrific moment in this movie. Luke is such a little git, a kid that thinks he's far older than he is. He talks in such a condescending tone, constantly teasing Ashley while ordering Garrett around. He's a psychopath, and the moments where he loses his cool shows the true kid inside. Levi Miller is a revelation, incredibly watchable, creating a character that you desperately want to see get his comeuppance. Once in peril, Olivia de Jong as Ashley really comes into her own. Her defiance makes her instantly more appealing than she was during the first third of the movie. She plays off Levi Miller so well, with a lot of their scenes really upping the tension and leaving you with an uncomfortable feeling. While Ed Oxenbould's Garrett is great as the unwilling accomplice who ends up desperately wanting a way out when it's far too late. Better Watch Out delivers on most fronts. When the gore does fly, it's brutal and extremely graphic, but never stops being realistic. The film captures the holiday season feel thanks to the snow outside and the overly decorated house. Even the ending is satisfying and will leave you with a wry smile. It's just a pity that the first 20 to 30 minutes are so nothing, and even if it is used to set up the rest of the film. Written and directed by Jean-Baptiste Andrea and Fabrice Canapé, Dead End is a 2003 horror film starring Ray Wise, Lynn Shay, Alexandra Holden and Mick Cain, and a minimalistic film. On Christmas Eve, the Harrington family are driving to Frank's, who's played by Ray Wise, mother's for an annual get-together. Feeling tired, he makes the decision to take a back road route, believing that the change of scenery will keep him awake. It's late at night and the rest of the family are asleep in the car. And the rest of the family are made up of Frank's wife Laura, Lynn Shay, their son Richard Mick Cain, and the daughter Marion Alexandra Holden, as well as her boyfriend Brad, played by Billy Asher. The road is pitch dark and empty, so it's not long before Frank's eyes begin to droop. Just as he's about to fall asleep, he's snapped awake by the sound of a car that he's about to have a head-on collision with. He narrowly avoids it, hitting the car, scaring awake everyone. Once things have calmed down, Frank checks the car and finds that there's been no damage, so they carry on the journey. As Frank puts it, he's awake now.
Is anybody else just like the least bit freaked out that we are the only car on the road right now?
It's 7:30 already, darling.
Yes, I'm aware of that, Laura. I thought we'd come to a junction by now.
Stop! I saw a woman in the forest.
Cool, Dad's tripping out.
Oh my God! What the hell was that?
You guys suck.
What are you talking about?
In a car. Who are these people in the woods?
Things seem fine, except for the constant bickering of the trio in the back, until Frank abruptly stops the car, believing he saw a woman dressed all in white holding a baby standing at the edge of the woods. Looking around, he's suddenly surprised by the woman who appears to be in distress. They try to talk to her, but she doesn't respond to their questions. They put her in the car and decide to take her to a cabin they passed a little while back. This is where things begin to go wrong. The less said about the plot of this movie, the better, as the story is so exciting and thrilling that you don't want it spoiled. Dead End is a fantastic horror film, one with just the smallest Christmas hints to add a slight festive feel to it. Not that it really matters, as it doesn't add or detract from the overall experience. There's so much to enjoy here, from the excellent acting to the oppressive environment. Even the ending, although it's somewhat predictable if you're a regular horror movie watcher, is satisfying and handled impressively. With so much of the film spent within the confines of the car, the choice of actors was very important. The characters aren't the most original, but the actors portray them really well, with the particular props going to Ray Wise, Lynn Shay and Alexandra Holden. The portrayal of shock here is simply fantastic. A tense experience. From the moment the film begins, it hooks you in, demanding your full attention, something that's very easy to give. That being said, it isn't flawless. There are a few moments where silly decisions are made, decisions that don't really make a lot of sense. For example, Richard walking off in the woods during a stop to have a wank is extremely odd and seemingly only there for cheap nudity and a jump scare. However, these moments are easy to overlook as everything else is so well done. A highly impressive feat and one everyone should check out. Remember all the controversy surrounding Silent Night, Deadly Night because it showcased Santa as a deranged murderer. Parents and important figures were disgusted that the joyous season was being used in such a fashion. It's not exactly shocking that those screaming for a horror movie to be banned didn't look deep enough to discover a Santa slasher film already existed. Why do your research when you can just join the baying mob? Christmas Evil, or You'd Better Watch Out, was actually released a whole 4 years before Silent Night, Deadly Night, and while it doesn't reach the height of that movie, it is extremely enjoyable in its own right.
I told you he'd be happy that we remembered him.
This Christmas, Santa's going to make everyone happy. The grown-ups and the kids. Christmas Evil, the non-believers and the screamers. And this Christmas, you better believe in Santa, or he'll slay you.
It's Christmas Eve and Harry witnesses his mother getting touched up by Santa, which is his father, unknowing to Harry. Disturbed and upset, Harry runs upstairs and smashes one of the snow globes, cutting his hand in the process. 33 years later, and Harry, now an adult, has a disturbing fascination with Santa and Christmas. He works at the Jolly Dreams toy factory in a thankless position, but at home takes on the role of the true Santa Claus, in his head at least. From the roof of his home, he spies on the children and decides if they've been naughty or nice. Creepy behaviour, but it hasn't gone beyond that just yet. As the film goes on, Harry sees how his co-workers mock him and take advantage of him. He has a breakdown and basically starts to think he's the real Santa, and it's his job to punish the naughty and reward the good. So begins a crime spree that will leave many dead. If there's one reason to love this movie, it is for its violence. Christmas evil has it in spades, and you can't help but feel that Harry is somewhat justified at times. Oh, and the batshit crazy ending that just rounds off a wonderful experience. The acting is mostly so-so, and there are a few things that will raise an eyebrow, like why are his parents doing that in the living room in full view? It's easy to overlook just for the fun of a man dressed as Santa delivering presents then killing people in their bed. It's not the best Christmas-themed horror movie, but one that does it with a bit more tongue-in-cheek. It's a fun watch and one that sticks with you afterwards, particularly that ending.